You want a lush, intentional yard, but you aren't willing to dedicate every Saturday morning to weeding, watering, and pruning. The problem usually starts with the easy care tags at the garden center. We often assume those labels mean the plant is bulletproof, regardless of where it's actually planted. When a plant isn't a perfect match for its environment, it requires constant manual intervention. If you miss a single weekend of watering during a July heat wave, the plant fails, and you're back at the store spending another $40 on a replacement. Breaking this cycle involves shifting toward a concept called biological outsourcing. It's an approach that relies on the plant's natural adaptations to handle the work you'd otherwise have to do yourself. High-resilience gardening relies on a plant's physical hardware, things like deep taproots or water-storing leaves, to survive with minimal human input. A truly resilient perennial is one equipped with biological defenses that allow it to withstand drought, resist common pests, and survive being ignored. Adopting this path often requires a trade-off. You are usually trading the manicured, high-color look of annuals for a more rugged, structural aesthetic that changes with the seasons. This flowchart illustrates two directions. The top path requires constant inputs: water, fertilizer, money, ending in burnout. The bottom path focuses on strict environmental alignment. When a plant's functional adaptations match your yard's natural light and soil, it survives without intervention, and maintenance drops significantly. Consider the challenge of extreme summer heat and extended periods without rain. Certain perennials, like Sedum autumn joy and yucca, are biologically built for these conditions. Their thick, fleshy leaves function as water reservoirs. They store moisture from spring rains to sustain themselves through dry spells, allowing them to bloom in late summer without supplemental watering. However, these adaptations come with a requirement. These plants need sharp draining soil and a location with full, direct sun. On the first row of our comparison matrix, you can see the Sedum and yucca profile. Their adaptation, fleshy leaves, makes them ideal for dry, sunny spots. But the trade-off column is critical. If you put these in heavy clay or an area with an automated sprinkler, they will likely die from root rot. For these species, providing too much water or the wrong soil type is more dangerous than total neglect. Another major time sink is deadheading, the manual removal of old flowers to keep the plant looking tidy or to encourage more blooms. Perennials like Coneflower, Yarrow, and Russian sage are largely self-sufficient in this regard. They attract pollinators throughout the season, and their spent flowers often drop cleanly or transition into interesting seed heads without any help from you. These plants also tend to have rigid stems that can withstand wind and rain, which eliminates the need for manual staking or supports. Row 2 of the matrix covers these self-cleaning types. Their strong stems allow them to stand on their own. The trade-off here is aesthetic. If you don't cut them back, you'll have a landscape filled with brown stalks all winter. Choosing these means trading a manicured look for a landscape that supports wildlife without seasonal labor. Shade presents a different problem. In low light, many flowering plants become weak and sparse, leaving room for weeds to take over. Large foliage perennials, like the Sum and Substance Hosta, use a different strategy to thrive in these settings. Hostas focus their energy on massive leaves spanning several feet. As they expand, they create a dense canopy that shades the ground, suppressing weeds. By physically dominating the space, they create a low-maintenance ground cover that reduces the need for hand weeding. Row 3 shows the Hosta profile. The adaptation is massive foliage, which is ideal for deep shade. However, the trade-off is fewer floral displays, and you may need to divide roots to prevent overcrowding. In deep shade, prioritizing foliage over blooms is a highly effective weed prevention strategy. Finally, there are plants chosen specifically for their ability to cover ground in poor or heavily degraded soil. Persicaria, for example, is noted for its ability to survive in almost any climate zone while blooming continuously. However, this extreme resilience has a downside. Some species are so vigorous they risk spreading beyond their intended area and crowding out native plants. The final row on our matrix shows Persicaria. Its high vigor makes it useful for poor soil or contained areas, but the trade-off is potential invasive behavior if unmonitored. Resilience can easily become overaggression. Prioritizing hardiest plants requires vigilance about where you place them. Strategic plant selection is about more than just hardiness. It's about finding the balance between the plant's needs and your personal preferences. We can map this balance across two variables: how flexible the plant is to different environments and how much control you want over the aesthetic. This quadrant chart visualizes the choice. Sedum plots in the top right. It provides a structured, intentional look, but requires strictly dry, sunny conditions. Conversely, Yarrow plots in the bottom left. It's flexible for almost any soil, yielding a much wilder, less controlled aesthetic. To reduce your long-term workload, you have to match the plant's profile to the unamended reality of your yard. For those who want a manicured, intentional look without daily upkeep, focus on structural plants that keep their shape. Hostas in the shade and sedums in the sun provide immediate, high-impact architecture with very little ongoing labor. If your goal is to cover a large area on a small budget, prioritize plants that self-seed or spread reliably. Coneflowers or yarrow will naturally expand over several seasons, eventually filling out your garden beds for the cost of a few initial plants. The trade-off for this low-maintenance approach is accepting a slightly wilder look in the off-season and performing occasional tasks, like root division, every few years. By choosing plants that are biologically suited for your site, you replace the cycle of constant maintenance with a landscape that manages itself with only occasional seasonal attention.